Jai Hind everyone. While the events in Nepal have become most discussed probably topic of the day, but a lot of things are happening with China also in the international arena as well as between India and China, including enhanced bond money apparently, which was visible during the recently concluded SU summit and events which were conducted prior to that, including the visit of the foreign minister to India and meeting of the uh, border management organization, look at the possibilities of some resolutions. Now there are two extreme thoughts, whether it is just going to be the optics alone or it is going to result in some progress. Seeing the behavior of China, you cannot predict. There may be some advancement, there may not be anything. It will be other events how they are going to shape. And one of the regions which were being ascribed to the enhanced China economy was the increased Trump tariff. But of late, you would have noticed that there is a increased positivity being shown by Trump also towards India and Indian Prime Minister. So how things shape up, that is time to tell. And we are very fortunate today that General Asthana has consented to speak today on a very important subject, basically related to India and China. And once he finishes his deliberations, we all will have the privilege to speak one to one and seek our queries because that will be recorded. So without much ado, I request Tushar to introduce the guest speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Today we have with us Major General Dr. S.D. Asthana, SM, VSM, retired. He is a globally acknowledged strategic and security analyst who has done PhD from GNU and authored over 450 publications. Sir has more than 45 years of experience at national and varied international fields. As Director Course, USI of India, he has been part of conducting large number of online and correspondence courses for Indian military officers for the last 10 years. As TV commentator, he has participated in more than 4,000 TV shows globally. Currently, he's on Governing Council Confederation of Education Excellence, CEE, International Organization for Education Development, IOED. He has been awarded twice by the President of India, twice by UN CEE Excellence Award for National Building by Governor of Haryana. He's got a lot of accolades over the years in his military life and post-retirement as well. We are looking forward, sir, for your enlightening talk on the topic, sir.
Okay, General Ashok, team of CENJOWS, and everybody who is watching, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to express my views. As was mentioned by DG, China-India reset is being talked of, and what a major fillip in the SEO conference. So what I intend doing is, first I'll cover as to what exactly is the kind of reset we are talking about. And so what I intend doing is that initially I will just give you as to what kind of reset has taken place. And then we will do an analysis as to what all are divergences. Does these divergences get resolved with the kind of reset which we are looking for? And what is the practicality of those divergences in which we can think about reset, whether it will happen or it cannot happen, or how much it can happen. So that's the way I intend going about it, as shown on the slide. I'll highlight on the Chinese strategic behavior as well, and also conclude with the India-China relations as to how we should be looking as way forward. Next slide. Yeah, now you see what has happened. We saw some kind of initiatives happening in the SEO meeting when President Modi had gone there. And many people felt that because of the Trump's tariff, the two countries are getting together. While it may have some impact, but it's not so totally. Because before that, we had Kazan Summit. And in that Kazan Summit itself, uh, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping spoke to each other. And at that point of time, the disengagement took place. So some decision was arrived at for the disengagement. If you recall, after the Ladakh standoff, there were some points where the patrolling was not being allowed. And thereafter, with the talk of these two leaders, I think those areas, the troops were dangerously closed on those areas. And then the troops disengaged. So that was a major achievement of Kazan Summit. And then uh, the foreign minister Wang Yi came here. We have, before that, we had the 34th round of WMCC talks. Nothing very much moved there. But the 24th round of the special representative level border talks, in that, two things happened. They called for the two general level mechanisms to be initiated. Now, what is this general level mechanism? Basically, it was talks for two major issues. One is delimitation, and second is how to ensure peace and tranquility on the border. So practically, if you recall, which I will be covering a little later as well, as to what were the confidence building measures earlier. So therefore, if you transplant it on ground, basically what it amounted to was that, okay, we will revisit the confidence building measures, which we already had. Now coming on to, but that being said, we still have a whole lot of sticking points. The de-escalation has not taken place. There is a concentration of troops in the borders. And Chinese support to Pakistan remains. What was there in Op Sindoor was quite evident. And what was also evident that even in future conflict, whatever support NATO is giving to Ukraine, that much support you can expect from China to Pakistan. Because China may not intervene directly and has not done so far in so many Indo-Pak wars. And the reason is because Chinese feel that they will only intervene when it is their national interest and not the interest of Pakistan. They are least interested in interest of Pakistan. So they feel from their point of view, and that's why they are in no mood to intervene. So with all these developments happening, then the stage was set for the summit of Xi and President Xi and Prime Minister Modi. And in that summit, which happened during SCO, few things came out very clearly. That while the summit was there, certainly neither Chinese nor Indians, both were cautious, both were not going, shall I say, far too ahead to assume, and both did not have the kind of expectations that everything will be hunky-dory after that. So there was an thinking that differences will remain, but the basic issue was that differences should not become disputes. That was the key word which was going around during that summit. I'm sure you all must have tracked that because all of you are from the community which is tracking the news. So I'm sure you all would be aware of whatever happened there. So Xi Jinping called that, okay, we are development partners. And there was also a fair amount of speculations regarding tariff war. And in that tariff war, that maybe that the two countries are getting closer because of tariff war. Also, China was also trying to score a point over us by showing fair amount of sympathy, which continues till now. Even 2-3 days back, their ambassador gave a statement that tariffs on India had been unfair and things like that. So they've been trying to get around us. But the issues which Prime Minister highlighted, if you recall earlier, there used to be something called as Panchsheel. Now, Xi Jinping referred to Panchsheel during his speech. And Prime Minister Modi, the mutual respect part was there in the Panchsheel also. But he highlighted on two more things, and that was mutual trust and mutual sensitivity. Because there is a trust deficit between India and China. And we also feel that they are not open to our sensitivity, whether it is in terms of terrorism or whether it is in terms of the road communication when we talk of the China-Pakistan economic corridor, because that is, that is our sovereign territory, and therefore we our stance as India is that communication and connectivity is welcome, but it should not trample somebody's sovereignty or territorial. That's the way we put it. At the same time, with these tariffs, two things came out very clearly. That American market, which is the largest market in the world, is not reliable. With Trump coming there, so Trump-led America is not reliable, and therefore, if we can manage markets within us, why not? So this was a realization from both sides, and this is the realization, which is the main realization, which is actually getting this reset in place in some manner. Or the second issue is the interdependence, which I'll be talking about a little later. So we both sides are interested in expanding the trade as well as investment. As far as Chinese are concerned, they need space to invest. As far as we are concerned, we also need to balance out the balance of payment problem with China. We have fair amount of trade surplus with China, and in fact, China is making almost as much money as they had been planning to invest in China-Pakistan economic corridor every year from India. They make so much of money in terms of the BOP problem. Then some measures were taken, like there was a, shall I say, a fair amount of accommodation on behalf of China for the reason, because in SCO summit, even during the defense minister when he had gone, they had not agreed, they did not put Pahalgam there, and defense minister did not sign. Now, this time, I think it was conveyed to Chinese that if you don't put it there, then Prime Minister is not coming and we will not sign the joint statement. So this was known to them, and that's why it was included. So they also made some accommodation. Because last time what they did was they included that Balochistan train incident as terror incident, but they did not include Pahalgam. Now that was the reason why Rajnath Singh did not sign, and he came back without signing. So this time they included that as well as Pahalgam. So that accommodation was made by them. Also they included LET, which was a very major change to their stance. Similarly, so they did make some kind of accommodation in terror. At the same time, direct flights have resumed, are about to resume. The visas, India has also eased out some visas. They also gave some kind of concession in terms of Mansarovar Yatra. And while Prime Minister Modi was speaking, he further emphasized regarding strategic autonomy. You read his speech and read between the lines. So he is emphasizing that it's not that we are coming together because of third party pressure or because of Donald Trump's pressure. It is that we both need to be together, number one. And number two, India will maintain its strategic autonomy. So don't assume that we are in your camp. Words to that effect. I mean, he may not have said so, but that's what he meant. Similarly, of course, President Xi Jinping is going to come to BRICS next year. That, of course, was a good achievement that he is going to come here, but we'll have to wait and see, because the present meeting of BRICS meeting was held about 3 days back. On that, Prime Minister did not attend. So I'll keep my comments reserved for the question answer session, for the reason because I think maybe that US may tilt this incident in a slightly different way. As far as Chinese are concerned, now let's put it in more uncertain terms. This recent reset was initiated by Xi Jinping and not by India. He was the one who, on the 75th anniversary of our diplomatic relation, sent a letter to President. And that is where the whole thing started. So the keenness to get into a reset is there from the other side as well. Then, of course, before that, there was a problem of they having curbs on few of fertilizers to us, rare earth magnets, and tunneling machinery. Jaishankar had gone there. When he went there, that time these discussions took place, and by the time and in just before the conference, those curbs were lifted. Similarly, Xi Jinping addressed that we are partners and not rivals. That was another, I think, slogan which he gave. And of course, a realization that we must exploit each other's market. We have a favorable, not favorable, I would say, but we have a smart guy who is their ambassador here. And from the time he has come, I visualize that he has been making a fair amount of effort to get the two countries together in some manner or the other. Because immediately before him, the ambassador who we had, that guy was more of good warrior diplomat type and trying to threaten us at a number of times. And it's a good thing that that guy has left in some manner or the other. Now, when we look at, now that this being said, so these are the efforts which are going towards development of, shall I say, resetting the relations. But can the relations reset? And for that, we need to really understand as to what these two sides are looking. Now, if you see on slide, what is the strategic focus of China? It wants to become world power or superpower. I mean, given a choice, they would like to replace US by 2049, certainly. And in the meantime, till 2030, they would like to challenge US in East and South China Sea, and also in South Asia. Now, there is a big power contestation going on in South Asia. You have seen the pattern which is coming up in a manner that you had something happening in Sri Lanka, then something happened in Bangladesh, uh, and now something is happening in Nepal. In fact, last couple of days I was there in almost all over all the televisions in the world on Nepal. And one thing, when we look at strategically, I mean, whatever is the domestic content that everybody knows, it's come hell of a lot of things. Okay. What is not in domestic content is that from the US perspective, the government was of KP Oli, that is in favor of China. So Chinese couldn't have masterminded this. Such a big protest of a regime change couldn't happen all of a sudden and automatically. It doesn't happen. Because this disgruntlement of politicians being corrupt, etc., that exists in all developing countries. It's not specific to Nepal. So something has happened. Somebody has supported. Now, who that somebody can be? Now, it is not in India's interest because we tried it out earlier. Not that we tried it out, but Nepalese used to accuse us of certain blockades which happened in 1996, and then something happened in 2000, early 2000 also, when Madhesi's movement was there. But then the fact was, as of now, the needle of suspicion goes to the West, or without any doubts, because the people who are coming up and the people who masterminded, there's a celebrity there. This guy has got a fair amount of followers and he's got a fair amount of income coming from West. Similarly, a guy has been released from jail who was a former deputy prime minister. Now, this guy also has some kind of, he was in jail because of the Western connection. But that was one of the reasons why he was there in jail. So apparently, things are moving in a manner which is, and if you see the strategic piece of Nepal, uh, if there is trouble in Nepal, then it is inconvenient for China. It is inconvenient for India. So therefore, there are certain this big power contestation can see some signs in the South Asia as well. Now, as far as China is concerned, in Asia, they want China-centric Asia and India to be number two and remain number two. Period. There is no doubt in their mind. Now, what are we looking for? Now, if that be the case, then you have to see the reset point of view from this overall focus. Now, what is India's overall focus? We want peaceful, inclusive growth. And we also want peaceful periphery. We don't want to fight. And we also don't want troubles on our borders because we want to be Viksit Bharat by 2047. If that be so, then it makes some sense for us to have peacefulness even on Chinese borders. Because you can either be Viksit Bharat or you can fight Chinese. Now there is a lot of rhetoric. हम अक्साई चीन लेके रहेंगे वगैरह वगैरह. All that is a rhetoric. The fact is that you our economy as well as our machinery, as well as our raw materials for pharmaceuticals, as well as so many other things are so much dependent on China that you can't become Viksit Bharat if you close shop with China. So therefore, you have to strike a very fine balance as to not to give away your national interest, at the same time ensure that there is a working relationship. So therefore, both these countries are competing for the strategic space. Now, as I said, now South Asia is become a very lucrative strategic space. And although people were not giving too much of attention to South Asian countries, because it was being assumed that South Asian countries, there are a whole lot of unstable countries or unstable countries, because you see everywhere around Pakistan, 50% of the time military is ruling. Bangladesh, again, it had military coups and unstable government, history of unstable government. And all other countries are also almost on the similar lines. You saw Bangladesh. Bangladesh, I've already spoken. Maldives also. Either way, sometimes it is India out, and then they come to realize the geographical reality, and then they say, no, 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 Modi is great, etc., etc. So you find a turnaround there as well. And even their instability was to an extent that we had to rescue their president at some point of time. So there is this instability there. Similarly, is the case of Sri Lanka, the president being thrown away, Rajapakse, and he was also pro-Chinese. Similarly, so it is a history of, but the fact is, demographically, this is a center of population. South Asia has got tremendous amount of population and also younger population, and it's a growing market and a big consumer. So it may not be today, but certainly it's a big consumer market of tomorrow. So that is where you will find this big power contestation has landed up in this area as well. And of course, Indian Ocean is certainly an area where the big power contestation is. Now, if we have to analyze what favors the growth of these two countries, China and India, the focused aim, leader, and government, that is a very big strength of China. They think long, they think strategic, and their aims are very clear. They haven't changed for very long. I've been studying China for so many decades. Nothing very much has changed. And they started off with a strategy, something called as calculative strategy. In 1980s, if you recall, all of you, that by about somewhere around 1980s, our GDPs were almost the same. But they took off. And one of the strategies which they adopted was postponed all disputes. Don't pick a fight with anybody. Don't take sides in any war. And concentrate only on economic. Simple. A very simple principle they adopted. And steal all technologies. Reverse engineer every damn thing which you have. Take care of all the diaspora which you have sent out. Control them. And get the brain power back to your country. Now, these are the kinds of things which they thought for themselves. And also self-reliance. You should have your own Google, you should have your own social media tools, you should have your own technology, you should have everything own. Whether you borrow, steal, there is a separate. Now, with that, they have been able to come out with an alternative system. They have their own search engines, they have their own social media apps, they have their own, which are reasonably popular, and they have their own everything put in place. So they could match, they are in a position to match economically and technologically to a great extent with USA in the near term, and maybe in the long term, they may even be ahead of them in some of the technology. Then it became a global factory. This global factory issue is a very major issue for the reason because the kind of the economy of scales you can't match. And even if you start manufacturing the Murti of Diwali in India, he manufactures at a scale where you find that those Murtis are much cheaper when they are imported from China. And I recall, I saw one of the documentaries where a Chinese guy, he was narrating everything about Indian mythology and Indian religion and etc. etc. And he was par excellence. I mean, I don't think any one of us knew as much as that guy knew. So they research hell of a lot. And I've been to China many times. I've spoken there in various universities. I think I've given at least 5 talks and interacted with a whole lot of guys in China. So I understand the kind of long-term thinking which they have been doing, and that has actually given them the kind of edge which they have got. Because today their economy is five times India. So from being equal to India to becoming 5 times India in about 5 decades, I think, or 4.5 decades, is something which couldn't have been done so easily. So while we can dismiss China, ki wahan pe sab, there's so much of people are under pressure and people are under pressure of Xi Jinping and they can't speak, etc., etc. There's nothing very great about it. There's nothing like that. There's a lot of guys who have reported who had gone for this conference, SCU conference from the West, and they were saying, I think we have made a very wrong picture of China in our mind, and that is why we thought that China is still a sleeping giant, but it is not so. And therefore, there is a fair amount of, shall I say, development which we were not uh, privy to. Now, coming on to the Indian side, we also have a very, very high potential of growth in a manner that we also have a strong and focused leadership. We have a very good growing consumer market which is attractive to everybody, whether it is United States or it is China or it is Europe, everybody. And the biggest strength of India is that we have the youngest English-speaking tech-savvy human resource in the world. This is the largest human resource in the world. Now, the only thing which we lack is that our human resource, there is an index called as per capita productivity. Now, in that index, we are fairly low. As of today, if we have to compare with China or US, we are 1/5 of per capita productivity. And it's not because people don't have, I mean, we have brain, we are hardworking, everything is there. The opportunities, we are far too much. Numbers are far too much. And therefore, the opportunities are too less, relative. So, and at the same time, you take the other figure. The other figure is that Indians going abroad. The moment Indians go abroad, their per capita productivity is much better than that particular country. Today, the Indians in America, their per capita productivity as well as their per capita wealth is much more than all Americans, any average American. Same is the case with UK. Same is the case with everyone. So it's the same human resource, but given the kind of circumstances, the same human resource can produce wonders. Okay. So much so for then now the comes is as to what is restricting them. Energy is restricting both of us. Both of us are, China as well as India, both of us are not self-sufficient in energy. So therefore, in our reset, energy becomes a common agent. So when the West says, okay, do not use fossil fuel, then you will find that China and India, they come on the same page to resent that. Similarly, when it comes to the other issues, now as far as China is concerned, of course, US has been trying to restrict Chinese in some manner or the other, whether it is strategic encirclement, you'll find their bases all around China. But I don't think they can stop China's rise. Similarly, I don't think anybody can stop India's rise too. So India is also going to rise, irrespective of whether US behaves or China behaves or not. But we are going to rise. But then the problem of energy not being energy self-sufficient remains with us. As of today, we have fair amount of technological dependence on others, and both are unreliable partners. We have technological dependence on US, we have technological dependence on China, and both are unreliable and both have their own national. And both also feel, especially like Americans have started feeling, that to break USSR, we propped up China. But we didn't monitor it, and China became too big for this, too big a challenge. Let's not do the same mistake with India. So tackle China. We are propping India, but we must keep India under check so that it doesn't become a problem tomorrow. So the buzzword going around in America is China is a challenge today, India will be a challenge tomorrow. So we have to deal with India in that manner, and that's why all the things which are being done by America will make some sense to us. So if I have to now summarize whatever I have spoken, there obviously China is looking at. They keep saying that we want multipolar world, but certainly they also want as of now they want bipolar, and subsequently they would like to become a superpower if given the choice. And Chinese military strategy has been expansionist in a manner that they did start off with the BRI. Now BRI had not only the communication and the overcapacity, not only utilization of overcapacities, it also has a strategic intent of showing footprints all over the world. And therefore, once you have the footprints all over the world, you can subsequently think of the expeditionary role of PLA and deploying them on the excuse that you have to protect your sea lines of communication all over the world. So if sea lines of communications have to be protected everywhere in the world, then obviously you need to have the largest navy. That gives the logic of the largest navy. That gives the logic of the largest, shall I say, submarine fleet. And also the strategy of incremental encroachment strategy. Now, this is a word which I've highlighted. I've been writing on this quite a bit. If you Google today, you'll find the first page, you will have 3-4 articles of mine on this. This incremental encroachment strategy is basically the same thing which he's trying in Ladakh, the same thing he's trying in South China. You also call it salami. I mean, it's also called salami slicing in some manner or the other. But the only thing is, I analyze it in a manner that when you call it salami slicing, you cut a slice, you can't put the slice back. But in incremental encroachment strategy, he can put it back. So when we stopped him, when he was making a move in Doklam, and we physically stopped him, so he went back. He stopped that movement. But thereafter, he tried and started whatever area he had. He started building infrastructure there. So that's another issue. Then assertiveness through infrastructure. Obviously, this has happened, and there are a lot of examples. Whether it is, well of villages, whether it is encroaching into Nepal's territory, whether it is encroaching everywhere else. So this is what they are doing, and infrastructure is a very lucrative thing, especially for the countries who are not very well off economically. And then they are also looking at a whole lot of bases all around us. Now, those bases are increasing, their ships are coming. And if that be the case, then you can see the viability. Why I'm highlighting all this is this gives the viability that actually can you have a reset? Because all this is there anything which is changing by 2 meetings of President Xi Jinping and Modi? Nothing is changing. So if nothing is changing, then obviously that kind of suspicion will remain and that kind of competition will remain. Now, when we look at their regional strategies I mentioned in one word, it has to be China-centric Asia, and any claimant, he needs to be curbed. So if regional dominance and any potential rival, as India is a potential rival, that needs to be curbed. And all the smaller countries, either you buy them or you do the purse diplomacy or infrastructure diplomacy or debt trap diplomacy, or you bandwagon them or you coerce them. These are the kinds of methodologies which they adopt to manage all the countries, smaller countries which are around China. Now, in that context, that's why you will find that when Chinese are talking to any country, they always go for bilateral trades and bilateral agreements. Because in bilateral agreements, they can coerce the country. Otherwise, there are various ASEAN countries. Now, they know that in ASEAN countries, everybody has different interests. So ASEAN as a bloc has not been able to stand up to China because Chinese deal with all the countries separately, and then everybody see there are some ASEAN countries where the EEZ is overlapping in South China. Then there are some where it is not so. So those guys are not interested in their disputes in South China Sea, and therefore Philippines and Vietnam and maybe Singapore may not be in the same page as Philippines. Now, this slides give you all the choke points Now, this is a major Chinese interest. As I said, that they are also energy, self-sufficiency of energy is not there. They started importing a hell of a lot from Russia, which is, and also had gotten into long-term contract with Iran. But then the flow of energy is through these corridors. These are the sea lines of communication. And therefore, it would like, and there are choke points in that. So therefore, if you have to look from Chinese interest, you look from Chinese point of view, there is no reason that I will just to reset with India or just to be a good boy, I will not have some controls on all these checkpoints, because that is crucial to me in a manner that my energy and my trade has to flow from it. So therefore, whether India likes, dislikes, if they have to buy something in Sri Lanka to make a base, they will do it. And if they have to lure Muizo to do something in Maldives, they will do it. Now, this is the same thing, South China Sea and all. Obviously, they are making bases to protect their maritime interests. And these bases will also become part of force projection, whether it is Gwadar, whether it is Djibouti, whether it is other bases which they are making. Let me also tell you, to put in context, USA has got almost about 800 odd bases all over the world. So when we keep saying that, okay, China making a string of pearl strategy, etc., etc., I've been discussing with Chinese. They say we have got used to, most of the Chinese say that we have got used to being called as elephant in the room. Because every discussion all over the world starts that China is the elephant in the room. So he says, I know that we will be called as elephant in the room. Number one. And number two, you guys keep telling us that you are having bases or you are making bases. Why don't you tell US they are 800? They got 800 bases. I have not even made 20 of them. And you guys are unnecessarily trying to tell us that way. Now, this is Chinese logic. Similarly, Chinese logic is playing up elsewhere also. Now, when we talk of the nuclear arsenal, they are increasing their nuclear arsenal. So, whenever somebody tells them, they say, see, US and Russia are way ahead. Either you tell them to come down to the level in which I am, or I will keep increasing. So, let's have no doubts on that. That's why he's increasing at a pace that he'll be 1,000 nuclear warheads by about 2030, and maybe more as the time goes. Now, in respect of India, what China is looking at containment to, shall I say, these restrictive trades, and also I use the word encirclement. That is containment plus encirclement put together. So that's what is called as encirclement. And then China would certainly would like to engage with India, but they have no doubts in their mind that they will continue to maintain the competitive lead in growth between India and China. And this has embedded right up to the junior most level to an extent that I remember I was going there was a guy driving me in China. So that driver was talking to me. He says, I like India. I said, Acha, you like Indian people? He says, yes, I like India, but I'll keep liking India only till the time they don't come near us. So this thing, and it is coming from a driver. So that means they know, they talk about the strategy competition, they know what the hell is happening, and they are very clear that India has to remain at number 2. Then retain strategic leverages, whether it is land-boundary dispute or it is asymmetry or it is proxy war. So whether Pakistan is useful to them or not, or whether Pakistan is honeymooning with President Trump, that is immaterial. But they will continue to help Pakistan to retain an asymmetry, proxy advantage or proxy leverage with us. Now that certainly they will continue. But at the same time, where it suits them, they would like to engage with India, whether it is climate change or it is dragging USA in WTO or it is energy. Because these are the 3 areas where our interests are converging to data. And Western powers are against us in all these issues. Now let's talk about another major issue. What is the border how is the border aligned, and can it really be settled? Can a reset really bring change to the border? And this is what I want to highlight a little more. This slide gives you the kind of border which I'm sure all the military officers and most of you would be aware of this slide, so I won't skip that. Now, this is an original map of McMahon. What I want you to highlight to understand here is when there is no border treaty between independent India and People's Republic of China. The treaty was between British India and Tibet. Now, when Britishers made this McMahon line, that time there were certain controversies in this McMahon line at that point in time itself. It's not that Tibetans agreed to this McMahon line in total. Tibetans' view was that this McMahon line should be somewhere around Bombay. And Britishers were of the view that, okay, we'll take care of that or we will look into it after Second World War. After Second World War, Britishers didn't look into it and matter ended. But the way it was drawn, and there was a Chinese rep who initialed it. So when he initialed it, at that point of time, why Chinese rep was there? Because it was the McMahon line was not only this line, that is between Tibet and India. It was also between inner and outer Tibet. And when he initialed it, and subsequently when PRC did not ratify it, the logic given by Chinese was that our rep signed because of outer and inner Tibet, where there is no dispute. But here we don't agree with this. Now, out of 14 countries, they have resolved with borders with 12. And when we question Chinese as to how is it that you resolved with 12 countries and why not with India? Now, their point of view is very clear. We resolved with 12 countries on give and take principle. But with India and Bhutan issue is related with India. I will explain it a little later as we go along. There's some slide on that. So there is an issue of trijection between Bhutan and India. With Bhutan and India. But with India, the problem is the stands taken, both sides are so hard that both sides say, you give me everything and don't take anything from me. So there is no give and take. And the political cost of giving anything is so high in both the countries that you can't really move ahead. So that is why the things are not moving. That's one part. Now, so I talked about the ratification, I talked about inner and outer Tibet, and Tibetans also wanted a change. And if you recall, today we say that, okay, Taiwan is with us. It happened because there was a gentleman called Major Bob Hating. He decided to move ahead from the Assam Rifles and he captured Tawang. And that's how Tawang with us. At that time, the Ministry of External Affairs initially was not too happy with him. Subsequently, they realized what kind of prized territory which he has captured, and then subsequently he became a hero. That's how. But as a policy, we didn't move ahead. It was just because of Bob Hating that Tawang is with us. Now, this is the line where I want to show you the inner and outer Tibet between Kongai and Tibet. This line, that is the outer and inner Tibet at that point of time. So this was the line which was being decided, and they say that his initials basically signify that part and not the not what is between India and China. Now this is something which I want to highlight, and that is where the entire logic of the border stands between India and China. All these lines, I'm sure you would be knowing, but only concentrate on the outer line, which is the black dotted line. That is the Johnson line. Now, what happened was that when Maharaja Hari Singh signed the instrument of accession, he gave this line to us, and India has taken a stand that this is the border. Now, what is this line actually? Hari Singh told his surveyor Johnson one day that please map my territory. This gentleman started mapping that territory, and with whatever information he had, he mapped that territory and made what is called as Johnson line. This line was not communicated to China. So as far as Chinese are concerned, there is no official communication to confirm that Chinese ever agreed to Johnson. Contrary, Chinese gave another line, the red line, which is the nearest red line. That is the line which is called as 1959-60 claim line. Now, this is the line which was given by Zhou Enlai to Prime Minister Nehru. Forget about all other lines. Just concentrate on these two lines. Now, what Zhou Enlai said that this is the border, not LAC. This is the border. Nehru said that I don't agree with it, and Nehru adopted a forward policy. And what was that forward policy? Some pickets in front which were occupied. And then came 1962 war. And in that war, they came out right up to this red line. And that is why China says that this is the border. Now, when standoff took place, the Indian version of standoff is that they all of a sudden moved lock, stock, and barrel and came and occupied all these things. The Chinese version is that so long you were making infrastructure on show paper, we were okay. The day you made the first culvert on Galwan, the narrative which went around in China was that our territory is this red line. We were sitting behind because India was not doing very much. But now that India has tried to finger with our territory and is now touching our sovereign territory and territorial integrity, we have moved ahead, and they have also concentrated a lot of troops. So we have moved ahead and occupied the border. Period. This narrative has been bought by every Chinese. So Chinese as a country are convinced that this narrative is right. We may not agree with that narrative, but then the fact is they are convinced that this is the narrative. Now, in this narrative, if you expect that Xi Jinping will fall back from that narrative, Xi Jinping's pussy will go, but he will not fall back from that narrative. Because there is no way that anybody in China will accept anything short of that. So, how far we should move back, that is a matter of discussion. That can be discussed. But thinking that they will give away the claim on this is a very tough call. So, a reset does not mean that this one will get resolved. So, we should be practical to expect as to what is the best option out of the reset which you can expect to happen. Now, let me just go. So 1950, obviously, as I said, the treaty was signed between Tibet and British India. Now, when India recognized Chinese occupation of Tibet, ideally, we made a very major strategic mistake that time. Ideally, we should have said that we will not recognize you till the time you recognize all the treaties between British India and we fell short on that. And with the result, the problems are what they are. Because that time, I think Chinese were in a reasonably weaker position. And in all probabilities, they were in a state that perhaps they could, if pushed, they could have perhaps agreed to some of those lines. But that did not happen. And that's the way it is. Rest, I think I have already covered, so I'll move faster. Now, this is the Panchsheel Agreement, which Xi Jinping referred during meeting in Tianjin. Now, you can go through that. Mutual respect remains common, and the other two clauses which Prime Minister Modi added, that was mutual sensitivity and mutual trust. So, because they have fallen short in trust and sensitivity. Now, this was the map. In 1954, we did arrive at something. There were maps exchanged. At least this was the map given to them, although they did not acknowledge it. The maps were exchanged only for central sector. This is what happened. And after that, the maps have not been exchanged for the other sectors as well. For the reasons I've just told you. I've told you about McMahon line. I've told you about the northern sector as well. So these were the two different positions during that period. And one thing which there is a lot of misquoting about 1962 war. What was Chinese aim? Why did they go back from Arunachal and all? The aim was very clear. And this is from the Chinese books and Chinese publication. It's not on the Indian one. That their operation, their grand strategy was operation in the Western theater was directed towards securing 1960 claim line, period. And in Kameng sector, it was to annihilate Indian forces. They never designed it to remain there. That's why they unilaterally withdrew. They did not withdraw under our play. So if you see at that point of time, if you recall, there was an option given in some manner or the other that okay, we will keep Aksai Chin and we will forgo claim on Arunachal. Now this swapping was not done. Today that swapping is not on the table. That swapping was on the table at some point of time. It's not on the table now. Because today they have issued maps, so they have no serious plans to capture Arunachal. Let me put it this way. And I don't think they are in any stretch of imagination, they are interested in any war with India. Their basic problem is that they have to keep that claim alive for the future generations, which they will. And as far as the Ladakh side is concerned, they are in occupation of what they want. They are going to increase. They are going to make another railway line much closer to the LAC, and another road, another national highway much closer to the LAC, ahead of National Highway 21. They are going to do that in recent time or in the near future. Now, after that, there were a whole lot of agreed borders of dispute, and there are many more now. These 8s are shown because they were mutually agreed on some kind of discussions. But now there are many more. Many more have problems. And these were various border management agreements, peace and tranquility agreement. These were the various contexts. So I am sure the fact is that their relevance we cannot bank on today because they were violated during the Ladakh standoff and can be violated again. So therefore, we come to the second part of the reset, where the second group is supposed to be looking after the new agreements, which can at least prevent an accidental trigger between the two arms. That's the thought process. Now, coming on to our neighbors, you all are aware of that Doklam issue, and there are other areas where Chinese are claiming on the northern side. Now, because of the sensitivity of India, what these guys are saying, what they are telling Bhutanese, that we will forego our claims in Jakarlung and Pasamlung, and you give us Doklam, and we will forego the other. The Bhutanese were earlier not negotiating directly, but then recently, last couple of years, they've started negotiating directly. Earlier, when monarchy was there, their stance was that we will not deal with any P5 member and let India deal, and our foreign policy will be through India. But subsequently, now with the democratic setup in place, they feel that no, we can deal. So they have a series of boundary talks with China. The only thing they have assured is that we will not talk about tri-junction and we will not hurt the interest of India. That is where the things stand. And he has not promised anything. In fact, their prime minister, when he went, there was a lot of controversies in India that he has promised something which is inimical to India. But then I saw the readouts. It was more of a Chinese propaganda than what he actually said. Now, this is the case of Doklam. In Doklam, what is happening is Chinese feel that Gipmochi is the transaction between the three countries. Gipmochi is nearer Siliguri border. And India feels that Patangla is the transaction. So, and Bhutan also feels so, because if Bhutan feels so, then that violet line becomes that boundary. But if Gipmochi is the transaction, then the red line is the boundary. So Chinese want to insist on the red line, and Bhutanese want to insist on the violet line, and India's position is also on violet line, that is Patangla. And there was a treaty which was signed between between three of us, India, China, and Bhutan, that nobody will change the status. This happened somewhere around 1972. Now, when Doklam happened, there was a confusion to say as to why you have entered in Bhutanese territory to defend Bhutanese territory. And our logic was that we signed a treaty together, And in that treaty, it was that you will not change unilaterally any border. And you have changed unilaterally, so that is why we are. Now, there is another area where they've laid claims, that is in Sakting area. So that is another area which is not going away. Now, these are all irritants which actually spoil the environment of a reset. And these are not going away very soon. Similarly, is the case with Nepal. In Nepal also, there is an issue of this Kali River and Lipu Lake Pass, where KP Sharma Oli was trying to say that Lipu Lake is with us. And the other day I was there with one of their ministers in this particular, when we were discussing this. And I said, from the time the British India left and Sagoli Treaty was signed, Lipu Lake has been with India and will remain. Let's have no doubts about it. And there was no stage in history where Lipu Lake was with Nepal. KP Sharma Oli published a map in 2020, and this was the map which he published, where he said that Lipu Lake and right up to Limpudhara is there. But the fact is that the rightmost extremity where the dotted line is, in fact, above so where it is written Kali in blue line, that is what we say that all the where you find Kala Pani. Now, actually what is happening on ground is the whole lot of the tributaries which are draining into Kali River. Kala Pani is the place where all these tributaries meet and that river becomes a sizable one. Now, Nepalese in their interest, they feel that where this road is being shown, there is a tributary coming from Limpudhara. Now, that is the tributary, that is the Kali River. And we say that where the blue line is there, that is the Kali River. Because if that is the Kali River, Lipu Lake is with us. And if we take the line which Nepalese are taking, then Lipu Lake goes with them. And they feel that the other black one where Kali River is written, that is the Kali River. And Kali River is also changing, these tributaries are also changing their courses. So, as far as we are concerned, there is a historical occupational claim which India has, and we are very clear on that the Lipu Lake has always remained with us. Sagoli Treaty put Lipu Lake with us, and therefore we are going to abide by that. They are doing a lot of infrastructure development in Nepal, and that was also quite substantial in weaning away Nepal from us in some manner or the other. And earlier you would have seen that we did intervene in some manner or the other when two blockades took place. They didn't go our way because there was a fair amount of hatred created in Nepal against us. And that is why in the present protest, you would find that India just did not intervene at all, because it has been counterproductive for us in the historical. So now if I have to look at that, there are stands have been hardened. Now what has happened is, why Nehru did not agree to Chavan Lai's boundary or claim line? Because he felt that if I agree, I will lose election. From that day till today, no prime minister is outside this pressure. The moment you accept anything or you give away anything, nobody can say, okay, मैं अक्षय चीन का थोड़ा सा हिस्सा दे दूंगा, because the whole country will say उसने मातृभूमि के साथ में समझौता कर दिया and he will lose election. Now, from that day till now, every prime minister and everybody is fixed, because the political cost is far too heavy. So that is why between India and China, the chances of this border dispute getting resolved is becoming difficult because of the hard stance both sides. The same is the case the other side also. The Communist Party will not spare any leader if he actually compromises with him. So many people feel कि नहीं, Xi Jinping बदमाश है, वो change हो जाएगा तो शायद border resolve हो जाएगा. ऐसा कुछ नहीं होने वाला. Because understanding their psyche and understanding the situation the way it is, even if Xi Jinping changes, somebody else comes. Forget about everybody. Even Tibetans were not in agreement with what our border stance are. Even Chiang Kai-shek was not in agreement with what we are saying. So if Taiwan, even today, Taiwan insists that 9-dash line exists. Even today, despite being hammered left, right, and center by China, and they're trying to get closer to India, still, or other countries, still they say that. So the point is, it is reasonably hardened. I think all other issues have already covered. So I'll leave it. So this is where the thing is. When Deng Xiaoping was asked, "Can you resolve border with India?" He says, "No, no, no. Thank you very much. Let the future generations resolve it. It's not. It's beyond me." So that's the way they are. Then there are four new irritants coming up. You see, we are a lower riparian for China or a middle riparian when the rivers are flowing to Bangladesh and Pakistan. But the fact is that there is no water treaty between us and China. So that is a major concern and would remain so. And then they are making all those dams also. Now, in the reset, what has been arrived at is that hydrological data will be shared. Earlier also they shared it. The only place when they did not share was during this standoff period. But now they have promised and they have started sharing it. Then is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. All of you know that this is passing through the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, so there is an issue there. And of course, as of now, the Chinese interest is slightly waning because they are feeling that maybe that a corridor via Afghanistan may be even better because far too much of terrorism here and far too much of obstructions here. So, but this is a strategic piece of land, they won't do it. And same is the case with Myanmar. They have built up the China-Myanmar economic corridor. But one thing I must tell you, which is not very much in news. See, if I have to calculate the cost of transshipment through Malacca Strait, if per unit trade costs $2 via Malacca Strait, through China-Pakistan economic corridor or through China-Myanmar economic corridor, it is going to cost $8 to $10. That much is the difference. So, irrespective of these corridors, his Malacca dilemma remains. And his urge to protect Malacca Strait will remain. And for us, it will remain a leverage and a strong point of India. That is why you would have seen that we have recently started making a military base in Nicobar so that we can dominate that, because if Chinese have any vulnerability against us, and if we have somewhere, some place where we can actually trouble Chinese, it is Malacca. So this is the situation there. And therefore, when we are looking at the impact, we have to be reasonably balanced. We have to make sure that we continue with Quad, put adequate pressure on them. We also have to make sure that our policies in Indo-Pacific region remain what they are. At the same time, we also have a problem of that we keep, the whole country keeps talking about the boundary encroachment. But the bigger encroachment which China has done on us is in the terms of digital domain and the economic domain. The economic domain and digital domain is much more serious. And there are hardly any countermeasures which we have. There are hardly any leverages which we have. On the border side, let me tell you, I can say with reasonable confidence that if we have boots on ground, if we hold, then Chinese are not, we can retain that area with us. If we don't hold, then there is a problem. And that is why I keep propagating in every forum that we should not go down on manpower as far as the Indian military and Indian army is concerned. Because holding it with boots on ground is essential and inescapable. Because there is no boundary agreement between us. The practical raw situation is जो तुम्हारे पास है, जो तुमने ऑक्युपाई कर लिया वो तुम्हारा है, बाकी पे कोई श्योरिटी नहीं है, तो किसका है किसी को नहीं मालूम. So that is the situation which we have to perhaps deal with. So therefore, the challenges exist. Trust deficit is there. China-Pak nexus is there. I think I've already covered all these challenges when I was showing you various diagrams. And therefore, what more India can do? Obviously, we have to have our own hard power. We have to increase our infrastructure. We need to have boots on ground, the point I just emphasized. And we cannot shun these Quad and Malabar exercises. We have to have them because that is something which Chinese are actually scared. They may not show that much, but Chinese are scared of this Quad idea. And the fact that interoperability exists between these four navies of Quad, then if interoperability is there, we may say that it is a non-military alliance or a non-military grouping, But then the fact is, in case of a problem, the intentions can change overnight. And if interoperability exists and military assets exist, then a threat can emerge. Now that is what is known to China. That is where perhaps we are. That is where we are. And I think all other things we are already working self-reliance, and we have to reduce dependencies on China as well as US. That is where our challenge is, that how much we can become self-reliant. And that is why you will find that nowadays the tendency on our MEA is working extra hard to sign FTA with everybody under the sun. I mean, so that we have alternate market. We don't only look at these two guys, because both of them are not trustworthy and both of them are only exploiters when it suits them. So it is better that we have total diversity in terms of markets, in terms of investment, in terms of engagements, etc. That's all I have, I think. Now, the impact of US relations on Indo-China relation is Indo-US relation. Even if the US, we have a reset. Now, few gestures have been made by President Trump and reciprocated by Prime Minister Modi. But if you actually see, neither the tariffs have gone down, nor the, shall I say, tariffs will go down. I mean, my own assessment is that somewhere around end of the year, the tariff thing will get sorted out in some manner or the other. Because after that, there will be election time in US, and he knows that he can't afford to lose majority, and the inflation will start rising. Americans will start feeling the pinch. So by then, this thing will get settled. But even if it gets settled, the fact is that if we have to take 78 years of our independence, almost 50 years plus, America has been an adversary. So it's only 20-25 years that we have been somehow hobnobbing with each other. So as a deep state, America is not with us. So it's only because of China challenge that they feel that they must engage with India. And this is, and also why I keep giving you this idea that China is not interested in fighting and nor is India interested in fighting. Because both these countries realize that if we fight with each other, American aim is achieved. Because the present challenge and the future challenge, both get sorted out. So both these countries at least have that maturity that we should not fight. And that is why all the reset is all about is how not to fight. We can have differences. We may not agree with each other, but how not to fight. That is the bottom line, which I think these two countries have realized with the kind of maturity which these leaders have. And both the leaders, I must put it, that both the leaders are visionaries. Even Xi Jinping, we can keep calling him names. India mein duniya bhar ke every day Indian media will keep calling Xi Jinping whatever he is. But then the fact is, firstly, he is patriot. Secondly, he thinks long term. And thirdly, this guy has got tremendous amount of vision. I remember one of my allies was saying that when there was a lot of brain drain happening in China, he says, you guys don't have to go to America. I will bring America here. And this is about 10 years back. And today you see the cities of China, they are much better than America. And the kind of facilities which have been created is phenomenal. So they have a plan. And with that plan, he has worked a lot. So here I come to the end of my talk.